Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, and where the content is free. It's a bonus episode of the Gersnet Podcast for this week. It's a preview show looking at the big game on Sunday, Rangers against Celtic in the fourth round, I believe, of the Scottish Cup. So we'll have a look at that, and we'll also have a wee look at a couple of other wee things that have happened this week. As I say every week, guys, it's not just the pod that we have. We've got forums, articles, there's a history archive on the website, all that kind of stuff. If you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then we would ask you to do that. We've got approaching 4,500 subscribers now. So please give it a subscribe and a like and put the word out there in social media. We're live tonight. It's a Friday night, but the pod will be available to download or stream on a variety of platforms as per normal, guys, from tomorrow, including the likes of Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all the normal places where you get your podcasts. And now to bring in my guest for tonight, only one guest tonight, and it's John McCallum. How are you, John?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. All healed. I missed Sundays from an injury on Sunday I got on Saturday. So I was out at the game with the vaccine, so all better now, thanks.
You look like you've joined the Haircut 100 Club. Did you manage to get to the bars? I'm the same. I got in on Monday. Yeah, it's great.
Highlight the last 3 months.
It's the most weight I've lost in years.
It's a lot come off. I looked down and I thought, are you shearing a sheep or are you cutting my hair?
I don't even have that much to take off anymore, but it was.
I didn't think I did either, but there was a fair bit coming off.
Fair bit, yeah. Aye, I was a bit the same as well. There was more grey there than anything else. We were speaking today before we get into the nuts and bolts. We were speaking today that you've got a Rangers anniversary today.
I did. I didn't know myself. I only discovered when I saw. Is it on this Rangers Day? Or it's on Twitter. It's actually great. One, the guy puts up some great stuff. I don't know who does it. And I discovered it is, I think we worked out it's the 43rd anniversary.
No. I worked out. You told me it was 42 years.
42. So it turns out it's 43. I can't count. Which will come as no surprise to anyone who knows me. But the 43rd anniversary of my first ever Rangers game, which 43rd anniversary just sounds such a long time. Terrifying.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's absolutely horrible. And it was John Gregg's testimonial, wasn't it? Rangers against testimonial.
Scotland. I was very young.
Can you imagine any Rangers player getting a testimonial against Scotland these days?
I know. And I tell you what was funny was, I said I was very young. I'd be 7. It was the first. My dad was and I'm sure there'll be people out there, who know this. So for my dad's generation, John Gregg was a big hero. John Gregg was a guy who, spent his entire career at Rangers at a time when good Scottish players went south. The good Scottish players went south, earned big money, became big stars. John Gregg stayed at Rangers, and my dad and thousands of men like him, really admired John Gregg for that. I remember reading John Gregg was one of very few players to get a testimonial from Rangers. It wasn't something that Rangers handed out easily. And so it was John Gregg's testimonial against Scotland, and he took me along. As I said, I was very young. I don't remember a lot about it, but I tell you 2 funny things. One, I was supporting Scotland. When I went along, I was supporting Scotland. I was 7.
That's the end of this week's show, guys. We'll see you next week.
I was about 7 years old, and it was the run-up to the Argentine World Cup, and I had just become football daft. That was the kind of big awakening in football for me, and I'd become football daft. And I was very excited to see Scotland play. And sitting behind us, we were in the main stand, and sitting behind us were John Robertson's family. John Robertson, the Notts Forest winger, who was playing for Scotland, were his family, and who clearly were all big blue noses. Who were clearly torn as to who it was they were supporting on the day, their relative or Rangers. And of course, what's funny is, John Roberts went on to be assistant manager of Celtic. In later days. So that was 43 years ago. I phoned my dad to say to him, I know what you were doing 43 years ago. Great. What was I doing? Happy days.
Well, you kind of provoked me. I can remember my first game, but I can't remember the day. And there's a bit of debate about it, because I couldn't remember if it was 81, 82 or 82, 83, that kind of thing. And Stephen, that does this sort of the Rangers archives. So it was Rangers against Morton, and it was 3-1. That was the score. And Stephen's got a video for a game in the early 80s, around about 81, Rangers against Morton. But one, I don't think the game I went to was televised, because I would have watched it, you know what I mean? I would have, see if I could see myself in the crowd and all that kind of. And the second thing is, in the one that Stephen's got on his YouTube channel, the old centenary stand is there. And I am pretty sure, I was in the Copeland front that day, and the place reeked of it was obvious the place was just built, you know what I mean? It was like gleaming when you walked in, you were like, couldn't you see, you know what I mean? And I'm sure the Govan was there by that point. So I've done a wee bit of digging the day, so I'm pretty sure it was the 1st of May 1982, Rangers 3, Morton 1. I think John McDonnell got 2 and Bobby Russell. And we were saying this today, only 6,500 at the game.
Well, that's
there you go.
6,500.
And I was one of them.
That's
I mean, I'm assuming the season was probably done.
1st of May, 82, wouldn't have been a good year for us.
No. You know, I think we would have been in the Scottish Cup that year.
82, I think we played Aberdeen that final.
Aberdeen, was that the 4-1 game?
I think the hammered us. I can't remember, but we didn't win. We didn't win many cup finals around then. Is my overlasting memory of that period.
Well, I'm pretty sure it might have been the season earlier, but I'm pretty sure it was that 1st of May 1982. So that's what 39 years ago. So I'm old, John, but I'm not as old as you. And that's
well, that's true. And you like to tell me that. That's okay. Anyway, we've brought in the young Friday night YouTube audience.
Oh, the young pups are loving this. They're loving it. Right, but before we get into like Sunday's game against Celtic, which is obviously a big, huge game. You know, could be season defining, especially for that shower across the road. I thought we would have a wee discussion about the Glenn Kamara, Kudela stuff. So you know, Kudela's obviously found guilty of racism. I think that's the key thing that seems to be getting forgotten in all this. Found guilty of racism. You know, handed a 10-match ban, which was the minimum punishment that UEFA could have imposed. Kamara was given a 5-game ban. I think it's been reduced to 3. But the initial 5-game ban was the maximum they could have given Kamara. And again, I know we had a wee bit of chat on this on the WhatsApp. I mean, 10 games, you could say, you know, fair enough. I think you were saying, you know, he's going to miss the Euros, and you know, at his age, he'll not get another opportunity probably, and you know, and that's fair enough. But you know, when you consider other bans that have been dished out, and when you consider the opportunity that UEFA had to really hammer this guy, to really put the message out there, you know, that this sort of behaviour is unacceptable. It seems, you know, to hand out the minimum ban that they could hand out seems a bit of a cop-out a wee bit, especially when you consider they tried to hammer Kamara with 5 games. Now, one thing I've noticed through all this about the allegations about, you know, Kamara, Rangers have never denied it. So I've kind of taken it for a while now that he did crack him. Right, and fair enough. You know what I mean? Given what he said to him, fair enough. I've got no... I'm not an advocate of violence. You know, I've had my moments, but I'm certainly not one that would advocate, you know, punching somebody or anything like that. But given the circumstances, I think it's more than fair to say, that it's understandable that he's reacted in that way. And I would assume, given Rangers have not said anything public, that they accept that it happened. But that he got the 5 games initially, which was the maximum. It feels to me, and I'm trying to take the emotion out of it, you know, because it's one of, you know, it's a Rangers player, it's our guy. I've tried to look at it, the whole thing, you know, fairly subjectively, and sort of, you know, just looking at it from the point of view of what he done and what kind of message that this puts out. And it feels fairly flimsy, in my opinion.
I think you have to look at UEFA as an organisation and understand how broad an organisation they are. I'm actually pleasantly surprised they banned them for 10 games, because I thought the whole thing would just get swept under the carpet. I thought that they'll do nothing for 3 months and eventually they'll quietly announce that he's been given, you know, 2 matches suspended or something. I just thought, you know, they don't want to get too involved in this. I think when you see the reaction of Slavia, and also from what I've read online, and it seems to be from the Czech president or
a government minister, I know.
Government, yeah. You know, I think you see that, and also as a when Saturday Comes magazine has a forum, and there's a guy who posts on that who lives in Slovenia, and he's quite knowledgeable about. He's an English guy, and he lives in Slovenia. He's lived there for a while, and he's quite knowledgeable about. He lives in Slovakia, not Slovenia, and he's quite knowledgeable about Czech and Slovakian football. And he's been saying since this happened that nobody that he talks to who's involved in football, who's interested in football, thinks Kudela did anything wrong. They don't see why this is a big deal. They genuinely see what Roofe did as 10 times as bad as what Kudela did. As far as they're concerned, Kudela, he called someone a name. What's the problem here? Roofe broke some guy's jaw. That's their view on this. And I suppose a country like the Czech Republic probably has as much clout in UEFA as Scotland does. Probably has more. And we spoke about this on a pod a few weeks ago. Culturally, a number of Eastern European countries, they don't have the same views on what is right and what is wrong in terms of racism that you'll find in perhaps Western countries. You'll find in France or in the United Kingdom or Scandinavian countries. And in the end, these people have a voice in UEFA. And so I was surprised they actually gave him 10 games. They should have banned him for the season. They should have kicked Slavia out. If they'd done that, they would have sent a message out to every club who was even considering doing that. Then everybody knows what happens. They haven't done it. This will happen again. 10 games is I think is still a decent ban for someone like Kudela. He'll miss the Euros, and he's 31, 32 now, I think. He's had a funny career. He was a journeyman player for most of his career, and Slavia signed him. Slavia have got a manager who seems to be, he seems to be a pretty smart guy. He seems to be a pretty good manager, and he seems to have turned him from just a journeyman Czech player, a guy whose career wasn't really going anywhere, into a Czech international. He's a first choice Czech international, isn't it? So he would almost certainly have played at this Euros. It's certainly been chosen for the squad. He isn't going to get chosen for the squad now. So I don't think his ban will fall there. They're just not going to choose him for the squad. Why would they? So his 10 games will be served as in Champions League or Europa League. So he will miss the Euros, and he'll miss most, I would suspect, most of Slavia's next season's European matches, whatever they are. So it's definitely a ban. It's not. I don't think you can just dismiss it and say, well, it's not very much, but it's certainly not as much as you would expect. But as I said, UEFA are a funny bunch. I looked up the UEFA website just to try and understand what these were about. And in the same announcement, if you have a look at their page, they've given a Russian referee who is involved in match fixing. They've given him a 3-month ban. No, a 30-day ban. And there's two players for Salzburg. I'm going to say Salzburg. I might have got that wrong. An Austrian side. 2 players for an Austrian side who both failed drug tests. And they've failed. It's not like, they've been, they just didn't turn up for the drug test or something. They have failed drug tests. They have been found to have a diuretic, a thing that's used to hide other drugs. A thing that cyclists use to hide the drugs away. So they've been found with that in their system. They both failed it. And they've been given 3-month bans. So you understand that, UEFA is a funny organisation, and you can't help but feel that if Kudela had actually come out, said something bad about the Saudi royal family, and refused to stand for the anthem, that he'd probably been given a 6-month ban. They're a corporate body, and they view what the sponsors want more than anything else. And I think it's as I said, it's disappointing. He should have got a bigger one. I actually am pleasantly surprised to get the 10, and I do think 10 is a proper ban. It's not as long as he should get, but it is a proper ban, and it will affect him, and it will affect his career. As for Kamara, I mean, I'm with you. If he stuck one on him, then good luck to the boy. He had it coming, and I'm glad he did it. 3 months ban will affect us, but it's I think it's worth the 3-month ban. A 3-game ban.
3-game ban. Aye.
I think it's worth the 3-game ban.
I'm surprised he never got a 3-month ban. Given it to UEFA. Just quickly, John, on Slavia themselves. You know, I'm surprised that they're not getting their arses seriously kicked in this whole mess, because I mean their reaction went from, you know, the extreme to the absolute farcical. You know what I mean? And then when it was announced that he'd been found guilty, there was this sort of contrition of, yes, we're really sorry, and you know what I mean? And you're just like, well, it's a bit late, guys. You know what I mean? You've just come out with all this stuff for the last sort of 3 weeks saying it's nonsense, it's this, it's that, and making counter accusations. And I thought the way they conducted themselves was absolutely appalling. To me, the best way to deal with it would have been, we're aware that our player has been accused of this, we'll not be making any other statement until after the investigation and any punishment, right? But no, they just boom, 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 constantly saying stuff. And then they come out with that totally sort of, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? How are they not getting dragged over the coals for this? Because their conduct throughout all this has been appalling.
Yeah, I mean, again, UEFA's a funny beast. You know, they'll Slavia. I was amazed at Slavia's reaction. Like you, I assumed Slavia's reaction will be, you know, we'll conduct an inquiry. We'll be saying no more until that's done. Like you say, they came out on the offensive all the way through. They did their absolute best to muddy waters, to deny what was happening. They egged on their own support, who, you know, have been fairly appalling all the way through this. But yeah, I think this goes back. I genuinely think culturally they don't think they did anything wrong. I think they just think, you know what, that's part of the game. You called him a name, big deal. That's what they think. And I think that's why they've come out swinging. And I think that the contrition they've shown at the end, I don't believe is genuine. I think that's something that UEFA have said to them, right? You know, you get a 10-game ban, you accept it, you don't appeal, you say sorry, you move on. If you don't do those things, it's a 15-game ban. You know, I think that's been the context this is all in.
Just again quickly before we move on to Sunday's game, and I know me and you have already had a disagreement about this. I mean, it was hard to sort of laugh given the seriousness of what happened, you know, with Kamara and all that kind of thing. But when I saw Roofe's ban, I did sort of laugh. I was like, 4 games, you know, and it all comes down to this, like you'd say to me after I'd said in a previous show that, you know, if I was playing up front for Rangers, I would have went for that ball. I thought he was entitled to go for it. And sometimes you go for a ball and things happen. Right? I don't think there was any intent in that. I don't think he meant to, you know, smash his face, so to speak. But sometimes, you know, collisions happen. At the time, I think in the modern game, it probably is a red card, but I think in years gone past, that would have just been accepted as a coming together. You know, he's went for the ball, and one of them's come out the worst. And so I was expecting, you know, for a red card, what is it, like 2 games or something like that? I'm not sure. It's either 1 or 2 games. And then to see that he got 4, I thought, again, now I've seen a lot of debate on this. I've seen some Rangers supporters saying, 4's fair. I've seen others saying it's a joke. I'm leaning towards it's a joke side. I feel for Roofe in this, because I always feel that intent is sort of 9/10 of the law in these situations. And I think he was genuinely going for the ball. He actually won the ball and just happened to collide with the guy after it. So I think 4 games is a bit harsh. It could have quite an impact on us because we've got 2 qualifying rounds for the Champions League. So that's him. He's basically out that. That's say 4 games. He's out that. So a pivotal player that we could miss, and it could be a costly ban. But I know you're going to come in and say he should have got a bigger ban than Kudela. You know what I mean? Because you're because you thought it was an act of absolute disgusting thuggery.
I think it's most people who watch this or listen to this will understand that you watch quite a bit of junior football. And I'm sure in the junior game, that kind of challenge is probably just waved off as high spirits. Look, I agree with you. I think he went for the ball. I think he went for the ball. I genuinely think he went for the ball. But if you've got your foot up at head height in that kind of situation, you leave yourself open to dangerous. But you can't have your foot up in anywhere on the pitch as a foul. You just can't.
What does that say then about the rule that you can kick the ball that high, but only if no one's within that area, within the vicinity. Like I can remember Karlsson Rummenigge getting a fantastic goal against us, ruled offside it when he played against us for Inter Milan. It was an overhead kick, and it's arguably the best overhead kick I've ever seen, because it's hard to describe. It's on YouTube, but just go and see it. What he does is outrageous.
Better than
it comes across, and it normally with overhead kicks to let it go across to their other leg, right? But he doesn't do that. He's at an angle, and he catches it with the leg on his right foot. It's came for the right, and totally changes the direction of the ball to the other corner. And he himself has said it's the best goal he's ever scored, and it broke his heart when it was ruled off. It was ruled off because big Dave McPherson stuck his head in. Right? And so, what does it say about the rules? Do we maybe need to say, well, you can have your foot that high, or you can't have your foot that high?
You can't have your foot that high, Colin. That rule already exists. Well, you can. If you have your foot up that high, then there's going to be a foul.
But if you got that foot that high and no one challenges you, it's fine.
Well, it's not dangerous play then. If I throw a left hook then and there's nobody around, the referee isn't going to mind.
But then it becomes aware about the player not being aware that there's anyone around.
Okay, look, I'm not here to slag off Roofe. But he's a professional football player. So he needs to be aware of who's around him. He should be aware of who's around him. And, I don't think he went to do the goalie. But at the same time, I don't think he minded if he did. I think it was a case of, I'm not out to deliberately do you, but I'm not backing out of this. So, which is fine. I think I want that in my centre forwards. I think I want my centre forwards. I want every goalkeeper in the SPFL to have watched that and think, maybe just going a half pace slower when Roofe's coming through. And I suspect Roofe thinks that too. I have no problem with that. But I also think, I think we need to take our light blue glasses off for just a second and say, had that been the other way around, and the Rangers keeper, came out for the ball and ended up being stretchered off because a player had gone in with his foot that high, I think we would be expecting there to be more to that than simply a sending off. I don't think Roofe can complain too much. It's just my opinion. It's a big blow for the club. You're right. If Morelos leaves in the summer, Roofe is really our first choice number one then, and arguably is our first choice number one. When he's fit anyway. I think before his kind of injury, his kind of injury he got in the autumn there, I think he was our first choice number one. So he's a big blow, and Champions League qualification will be very difficult. We'll be playing against better sides than we have been playing against in Europa League qualification. So it will be hard. He will be a big miss, as will Kamara. But I don't feel we can complain too much about that. I think it was dangerous play.
Okay, I'll let you have the last word on that. Right, before we move on to Sunday's game, I'll highlight the Rangers picks, our partners Rangers picks. So if you fancy the opportunity to win the share of £1,000 and play Rangers picks, the official Rangers Pick'em game, which is available to play for every Rangers match. It's totally free to play. All you have to do is visit www.rangerspicks.com, complete a series of questions about the game on Sunday, and I'll give yourself an opportunity to win a share of £1,000. The more fans that play, the more money the club gets, which is obviously good. You have to be over 18 to play. Terms and conditions apply. And as always with these things, guys, please play responsibly. Can I just say, John, I think that's the first time I've ever gone through the Rangers picks things without making an arse it. So that's a plus, and I'll certainly take it. Yeah, I'll take that. So hopefully that's an omen for Sunday. So on Sunday, John, huge game. Celtic, their season's a disaster already. And this is their sort of last opportunity to win something for us. Our record in the cup competitions of recent years anyway has been fairly poor. So, we've already got the title wrapped up, obviously out of the Europa League. Other than sort of trying to finish the season undefeated, this is the sort of main thing we want to do. Yeah. So the press conference today, first thing that sort of made me ears prick up, it was about Ryan Jack. So Gerrard announced, he kind of framed it good news and bad news. Good news, we've got to the bottom of the problem. We know what it is. An expert's seen him. He's going in for an operation. Bad news is out for the rest of the season. And I think maybe a bigger blow for the boy. He'll miss the Euros. And obviously want to see Ryan Jack play for Rangers. I'm not overly concerned about him playing for Scotland, but when you consider Scotland's record of qualifying for major tournaments, this could have been his only crack at it. So I think that's a big blow from. So I mean, we've spoken about Ryan Jack before, and it's you just have to feel for him. I mean, he's been in and out for pretty much since he signed for Rangers. We've said this before, he was a sort of 6 games in, 3 games out kind of guy. The season that we really kick on and win it has been the season he's been most blighted with this injury. And to make it even worse, it's ended his hopes of playing in a major tournament in the summer.
No, it's a big blow for him personally, but I think JR was right. The good news is they seem to have figured out what it is that's causing it, and hopefully they can fix that. And hopefully that means he's got many more good seasons ahead of him. But it's a big blow. I think the biggest compliment you can play to Jack is that he is, when fit, he is a guaranteed starter for Rangers. With McGregor, Tav, Goldson, and I think Jack is probably, Barisic as well, but Jack is then probably the only other guaranteed starter, I think, in the Rangers team. Kent's probably a guaranteed starter as well, when fit. But I think everybody else knows there's another person after the position, but I think when he's fit, Jack's a guaranteed starter. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can pay him. So it's a big blow. A blow on Sunday. They're his kind of games. He understands that type of game. He understands what's going to be at stake. He understands what the Celtic support will be thinking and what their players will be up for. So he is a big blow from that perspective. And just, missing the Euros, I agree with you. I think that from a personal perspective, that's a problem for him. If it means he's back fit a bit sooner for us, then great. I don't have any particular issues with that, but it's certainly a blow for Scotland and for Rangers. Very disappointing.
Are we approaching, the point of if this doesn't fix it, there might be a decision needs to be made at some point, but in terms of Ryan Jack?
I think if it doesn't fix it, the decision isn't for us to make. The decision's his own. If it doesn't fix it, then I think he has career issues. That he's... Again, this is something that we've spoken about for a while. It's something that's been, we've murmured about recently. That can you have a player in your squad that's out as often as Jack is? If they haven't got to the bottom of it, if the op or whatever it is that's going to happen to him doesn't fix it, if he comes back next season and it's the same problem he's having, then the club has a duty to try and make the man fit. You have the duty from a human perspective, you have the duty from a business perspective. He is an asset. You want him performing to the best he can. Let's just hope that they can do that. My always worry with these guys is players who've had this kind of problem. They're out for a long time. They come back. They're always prone to picking up other wee niggles and strains. And Jack's now late 20s. He should be at the absolute prime of his career. It's a shame, but all we can do is put our faith in the medical people and hope that they know what they're doing. They've found the problem.
There's also, I always think there's a psychological effect as well. Do they trust their bodies as much? Do they push it as much as they would want to push it? Because I think I remember Peter Lovenkran's being a bit like that. He always used to have hamstring issues when he first arrived, and there was a period at Rangers when you just felt he was never going at what he was capable in terms of his full speed, that he was holding off just a wee bit because he just felt he didn't trust his hamstrings, and that's a wee bit of a worry. But I mean, on the plus side, moving on to Jack, an update in Tav today as well, and that seems positive. Apparently trained yesterday, non-contact, so other players within the game were told, let him have the ball and all that kind of thing. I think he was going into a contact session today and doing it again tomorrow. And Gerrard sort of suggested that if he came through that, there's a good chance he might feature on Sunday, although obviously it depends how it goes. But, I mean, whether or not he plays on Sunday, I mean, I personally thought that we weren't going to see Tav until, he was lifting the trophy on the 15th. So that's positive, because it does feel, I mean, as well as Nathan Patterson has been playing, it does feel we've kind of missed him a wee bit on that right-hand side.
Missed him enormously. We really missed him against Slavia.
Yeah,
that's where we really noticed him, because everything was having to come down one side, and we lost all balance. We didn't have a right-hand side. With Patterson's a decent prospect, but he can't cross like Tav does just now. He's not got the dead ball ability that Tav has. It's great that he can bomb forward. It's great that he's got good control, but until he can put in the crosses that Tav can put in, then he isn't going to get into the side ahead of Tav. So the only question over whether Tav should play or not is whether he's fit or not. There is no doubt in my mind if he's fit, he plays. Patterson's played well, but Tav's a much better player.
I couldn't see him starting, I must admit. I think if he's making an appearance on Sunday, it'll be from the bench, because I just don't think he's got enough games in him. You know what I mean? He's not had enough football recently to start again.
How long's he been out? 4 weeks?
Aye.
Yeah, it's not that long. I mean, he's a fit player. He's a fit guy. He's not a guy carrying any weight. He's not a guy with a history of injuries. I imagine his overall fitness is pretty high. A big part of his game is getting up and down the pitch. I don't know. When you consider what's at stake, this is the season. If we lose on Sunday, season's over. We've got 4 friendlies, and then that's it. We all go away for the summer. And for Celtic, it's their entire season. Their entire season is resting on that game. I think if I even thought he was 80% fit, I'd probably play him, because he brings a lot to the side. He's a very influential player.
On to the other fullback, Borna Barisic, he was wheeled out today for press duties. He was quite scaring of John Kennedy's comments that Celtic were still the best side in Scotland. John Kennedy's came back saying, "Oh, they were taken out of context," but it's kind of hard to take them out of context. It's kind of hard to take those words out of context. We are the best team in Scotland. You know what I mean? It's like, really?
What did you really mean, John?
Yeah, what did you really mean? You've got the best group of players, but you didn't win anything. So sometimes I'd rather players didn't get involved in this and comment, but I must admit I quite enjoyed them coming out saying, it was a bit of an insult and it was laughable and all that kind of thing.
He's the one thing that I came across from Paul is he has the most terrifying voice of any man I've ever heard.
I know, it's a horrible voice, isn't it?
God, how deep is your voice?
He's got a career in sort of doing voiceovers in horror movies when he's finished with Rangers. It's horrible.
Wow, that is some voice you've got. I mean, he must just need, because he looks like this. I've always thought he kind of looks like this kind of really pleasant guy, and then he speaks. You're like, Jesus, you're a killer. But that aside, I was surprised he was drawn on it, but I thought he handled it pretty well, actually. I mean, he said what we were all thinking, which is, what on earth was Kennedy thinking saying that? That was a mental thing to say. I think that showed his inexperience. I think that showed why he's not going to get the Celtic job as well, because it was a strange thing to say. And I suspect every Rangers player read it and thought, oh, aye, is that what you think? Okay. I hope that's what happened. But it was a strange thing to say. I thought he's been taught as the funniest joke I've heard this year was pretty good.
Part of me wonders, see, with John Kennedy, a lot of what he said, I sometimes think it's maybe coming from somewhere else. That it's coming, we're reaching season ticket renewal time and all that kind of thing. And something tells me that maybe not everything that he's saying, but a fair amount of it is coming from somewhere else. But I don't know. But I quite enjoyed Borna sort of, tearing strips off him. And as you say, hopefully the players, and Steven Gerrard will use that on Sunday as motivation, because the league's been won, 6 weeks ago now. It does feel that there's been a bit of a tail off, and something like that is maybe Definitely. Just the wee spark to start the fire that we need. I mean, speaking about Sunday, John, I mean, I don't know about you. When the draw was made, my son was at me and says, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, in my lifetime, it feels that whenever Rangers get Celtic in the Scottish Cup, the semi-final or the final, we 9 times out of 10 win it. If it's in the earlier rounds, my experience has been that they win it." And I'm sure I read somewhere, I might be wrong here, I'm sure I read someone saying on Twitter it's like the 60s since Rangers last beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup outside the semi-final or the final. So that put a wee bit of fear in me. I thought, oh, no, this isn't our territory. This isn't what we're good at. And then I started making comparisons between, when we were going for the 10 and in Celtic's effort. Now, both went out of the League Cup fairly early on to teams that they should have beat at home. We went out to, I think it was Dundee United. They've obviously went out to Ross County. Both had disastrous European campaigns. And we went to Celtic Park in the Scottish Cup that year and beat them. But we lost the final to Hearts. Yeah. And they're coming to Ibrox now. It's almost like complete role reversal. And both teams lost the 10 at Tannadice. You know what I mean? So it's just like I'm ticking all the boxes, thinking, well, what's going to happen here? Celtic are going to come here on Sunday and win, and then lose the final, because that's what happened, 20 odd years ago. So how do you feel about Sunday? I must admit, I always try to be positive, but I've just got a wee bit of fear about this one.
No, one of the great things about football is that utterly incomprehensible nonsense that you just said there makes perfect sense to me. Makes perfect sense. I'm sitting there, I'm nodding along thinking, God, he's dead right. That's exactly what happened. That is absolutely a sign. Yeah, I'm now so worried about it. And that is the truth about it. We look for signs. We look for things to give us either hope or to put us off or something that kind of. And the simple truth is, we have a better team than Celtic. We have a better team than them. And if we turn up and play to our best, and they turn up and play to their best, we'll win. And that's what we need to do. And I'm nervous because I'm always nervous before a Rangers Celtic game. I don't particularly enjoy them. I enjoy them afterwards. There's been occasions where, we've coasted it and you've been enjoying it from fairly early on. But generally speaking, I don't enjoy it until after the game. Yeah. I find them, you get too emotionally involved in them. At my age, I should know better, but you never learn. So I don't think I'll enjoy this one, but I'm hoping I will enjoy it to the end, because I genuinely think if we turn up and we play our game, and we haven't been playing it recently, we've just not been as slick as we need to be. As I said, we've missed Tavs, so I think everything's having to come down the left. Whereas when Tavs fit, you've got both wings coming at them, and they don't know where to, they can't overload then, which is what they did in the game at Parkhead. I thought they kind of overloaded and managed to keep Dorner kind of quiet, and knowing that Balogun wasn't really going to be able to cause too many problems down the other side. So it'll be interesting to see. They still got some decent players. For all they've had a poor season, the guy Edward he's a good football player. He's a decent centre forward, Colin, and if we give him the space and the chances we gave Hibs last week, we might have some problems. So we'll need to play better than that. But I expect we will. Surely to God, we've been focusing on nothing else all week. Let's go out and make a statement. Let's go out and just remind them who the best team in the country really are.
Yeah, I think since the Prague game, I felt things went. I think that was a bit of a blow to us, and it kind of took the stuff in it. We've still been performing well enough to get results and all that kind of thing. But you're right, there has been a wee bit of an edge, taken off us a wee bit. Before we wrap things up, John, in terms of team selection, I've got a team in my head what I think you might go with. Up until today, I think the back four was pretty much set in stone. You would have Patterson at right back. Obviously, the injury to Balogun, so you would imagine it would be Hollander and Goldson and Borna. Tav might change that, obviously, with him being a bit fit. The middle three, I think Davis and Kamara will come in. I think he's going to go with Arfield and push Aribo one up and have Morelos and Kent. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's his team, because I don't think Aribo is a midfielder.
No, that's my biggest fear with Aribo. He doesn't track his runners. No, he's a great player, and he could dribble around 20 boys in a phone box. But there's been too many occasions this season when I've seen runners coming in with no one on him, and Aribo's 10, 15 yards behind him, and I just think Arfield's more disciplined in that position. Yeah. So that's the team I would go with.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be a battle in midfield. I mean, I think Celtic will come out. I think Celtic will try and play physical. So I think Arfield's better suited to that. Arfield's not in great form. I don't think his form has been great since he came back from injury. But hopefully that's not going to be an issue. So then it comes down to, do you play Roofe or do you play Aribo? I think he'll play Aribo. I think he'll go Aribo, Morelos, and Kent as well. And I like it. I think Aribo can work in a midfield if we're going to have a ton of possession and we're trying to break down a packed defence. Then I think Aribo basically then works as a kind of fourth attacker, and you get two sitting midfielders.
Yeah.
Against Celtic, though, they'll have possession, they'll have attacks. I think we need three proper midfielders, and then we have guys then on the bench who can change the game. So I think it comes down to Roofe or Aribo. That would be my team as well. But one thing about Gerrard is he's bold.
Yeah,
Gerrard's bold. He's an attack-minded coach. You and I, we come at this from the Walter Smith school of, is there any more centre halves we can get into that side?
Then Walter Smith would always throw in a curveball in these games. There would always be a name, and sometimes it'd be like, somebody,
some guy you forgot that played for this.
This guy just flung in. You know what I mean? Let's see what this guy's got. And part of me does wonder if he might go with Wright. You know what I mean? David Dren made an interesting sort of suggestion last week. Kent on one side and Wright on the other, and that sounds interesting. But I mean, I don't know if Sunday would be the game to try it. No. But as you say, he is quite bold, and he might just try and throw a curveball. But I'm fairly certain that the team that I've went with there is roughly what it will look like.
Yeah, I think that's probably our strongest team just now as well. I think he also likes Aribo for his height. I think Aribo then adds something both defensively at set pieces, but also attackingly. He's a big man, so I think he brings something more to the team. Then I don't think Wright's going to start.
Well, Frankie's
if he didn't start against Hibs, he's not starting against Celtic.
Well, Frankie's just pointed out that he went with Kent and Barker at the game at Celtic Park, so you never know. The game we won 2-0. So you never know. The two of them would offer pace, and I'm starting to doubt my team now. Anyway, yeah. Right. So, before we go, I'm assuming you'll be watching it. Are you subscribed to Premier Sport, the most ridiculously named sports channel in the history of sports channels?
Well, the Premier League, the Scottish Premier League uses that word as well. So, no, I don't have Premier Sports. So it will be a dodgy stream, or I'll figure out how a VPN works and we'll be telling Rangers I'm living in Malaysia or someplace like that. I think.
But of course, you're not admitting that live in air. That's
no one's listening. We lost them all early on when we started talking about Michael Rummenigge and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and John Gregg.
John Gregg's testimonial.
It's just Frankie in the background going, stop.
Shut up.
There's people on TikTok making videos about you two now.
On that note, I think we'll call it right, John.
Hang on. What's your score prediction?
Oh, I don't like doing this, John. I don't. I just because I never get it right.
How do you do? Well, I'm not asking you to put money on it.
No, I know, but I just feel when I predict something, see what happens a lot of the times. If I keep it to myself, I'm right. The minute
I was just about to say that.
The minute I voice it, it seems to go pear-shaped, and so the paranoid sort of superstitious person that I am, of just like, right, you know what, I'm saying nothing. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to. I agree with you in the sense that if both teams bring their A game, Rangers will go through. But it's all dependent. It's whether we do that.
Plus, who's the ref?
Is it no Bobby Madden?
Is it? Oh, God, good harm.
You're picking away them, John. You know what I mean? I'm at the stage now. I don't care. They're all shite. You know what I mean?
Okay. You'd be abandoned after 10 minutes or something. Then okay. Anyway.
Right.
Well, let's hope we're smiling on Sunday night.
Yeah, well, I'll say who's on Sunday night just now in my closing spiel. So a big thanks to John there. That's us for the preview show for the Celtic game on Sunday. Join us on Sunday night. It's David Dren, Alex and Chris Jack on Sunday, so they'll be covering everything about the game on Sunday, so join them. In the meantime, get yourself over to the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. As I said, again, a big thanks to John. Until Sunday, guys, stay safe, look after yourselves. I hope you all enjoyed the travel restrictions getting lifted today. I was up a hill, great fun. Bye for now.